example, somebody says this supercomputer here applies for membership in the Writers Guild. Membership declined. You're not human. The final thing is AI, which is the funniest of all of them, right? The funniest of all of them, because at least, hey, I'll give them, they got their minimum staffing thing they fought for. Just like they got the agents to end the packaging system. They got it. And, it's not what people thought they were going to get, but they got it, right? All right, so I'm going to go over, there's just 4 bullet points that the Writers Guild gave. So these are the new artificial intelligence things that we fought for 5 months to get. And I'll explain to you why I'm laughing. First one, AI can't write or rewrite literary material, and AI-generated material will not be considered source material under the MBA, meaning that AI-generated material can't be used to undermine a writer's credit or separated rights. So that means if a studio comes and has ChatGPT write, Expendables 5, right? ChatGPT writes a script for Expendables 5. It might even be better than I saw Expendables 4. It might be better. ChatGPT might have done a better job, right? But let's say ChatGPT comes Expendables 5. And then they give it Expendables 5, and ChatGPT is the first writer. And so now, instead of being paid, a large amount of money for being the first writer, because the most money you get is for being the first writer, and then there's rewrites, right? Which are less money. So the idea is, you don't have to pay them because there's now somebody just comes in to rewrite AI, right? Well, now AI can't be used as a source material. Guess what? Victory, right? AI could never have been used as a source material. It never could have been. For 2 reasons. And I knew this in May. We already had the language in May 1st. AI, the MBA, which is the agreement between the studios and the Writers Guild, the MBA has for decades had a very simple rule that the first credited writer must be a human member of the Writers Guild of America.
Wow.
The source material must be that. They had this back in the 80s. You couldn't, for me to join the Writers Guild, when I sold my first script, I had to join the Writers Guild because the rule required that for them to purchase a script, the source material, the seller had to be a Writers Guild member. So I was inducted in the guild. So there is no preliminary source material ever allowed to be a non-Writers Guild. A computer can't be a Writers Guild member. That was never allowed. This was back in the 60s, and people just knew. Because their concern wasn't AI. Their concern was you pay off some kid in Bangladesh to write draft 1 of Expendables 5. You pay him 1,000 rupees, right? And then you bring it back here, and then you get Kamran to rewrite it for $15,000. And so instead of paying $100,000 to the first writer plus paying Kamran $15,000, you've paid essentially $15,000 plus 100 rupees, whatever that is, right? And so But that was never possible because that Indian writer or Bangladeshi writer had to be a member of the Writers Guild being paid under the minimum agreement in order for him to sell that Expendables 5 script, the source material. Oh, well, it was never possible. And that's just in and of itself impossible. So they've just reassessed what was always impossible, again, in the NBA. But then the other thing that happened this summer, multiple courts ruled that AI-produced artistic work is not copyrightable. If AI, ChatGPT writes Expendables 5, there's no copyright to it. A Sony executive can type in, write me Expendables 5, and ChatGPT throws out a script. Guess what? An executive Fox can take that script and make that movie, and Sony can't do crap about it because there's no ownership in it. So why would they ever have AI as a source material? Even though it was never legally possible under the NBA for decades, why would they? If you can't own the underlying material, how could you possibly make something out of it, right? And so we won a victory that was no victory. And in May, I said, why are we fighting about this? We already have it. All right, well, we won the victory. So let's go through the other points. So that's victory number 1. Victory number 2. A writer can choose to use AI when performing writing services if the company consents and provide the writer follows applicable company policies, but the company can't require the writer to use AI software. So it specifically says, e.g. ChatGPT reporting writing services. So is that a victory? So basically, people are using ChatGPT right now. No. So you're giving us the right to use. I already have that right. If I want to, you're telling me I have the right to use, you're giving me the right to use Google? I already have that right. Who's going to stop me from using Google? I just finished a script right now. I Googled the hell out of military terms because it's a script set in the Iraq War, 2003. I don't know some of the stuff. I was like, what's this military term? What's this weapon? I don't know it. I'm all over Google, right? You're gonna tell me you now have given me permission to do that? You know, if I don't like ChatGPT, I've experimented with it. It has some interesting things. But if I wanted to have, if I'm doing research for my Iraq War movie, I was like, hey, ChatGPT, can you write me a scene, just an action scene where this guy fights his insurgent in the ruins here? And it writes a bad version of that scene, but it might go, oh, that's cool. I'm going to use that cool thing and that weapon that the ChatGPT threw out. I'll use that, and I'll use that in my script. Who's going to stop me? Who's ever going to stop me? You needed a rule for that? So, okay, we've won the right to do what we could do anyway. All right, whatever. Number 3, the company must disclose to the writer if any materials given to the writer have been generated by AI or incorporate AI generated material. Okay, so a studio exec says, hey, Cameron, I'm going to hire you to do Expendables 5. Here's some notes and thoughts I got. What do you think of this? Oh, by the way, that cool action sequence, I'm coming up with these notes here, that was written by ChatGPT. I'm like, okay, thanks. What do I care? I'm going to write it anyway the way the hell I want to write it. You're hiring me to write it, right? So thanks for letting me know that you got these ideas. But executives always have ideas. You either take them or you don't take them. So just telling me, I got the idea from ChatGPT. Okay, thanks. I don't have to use it, right? I can do whatever I want. I'm the writer. You're hiring me to do this, right? Okay. Great. We want the right to do what we're always doing. Okay, all right. And the fourth one, and this is the funniest of all, the WGA reserves the right to assert that exploitation of writers' material to train AI is prohibited by NBA or other law. So they reserve the right to one day in the future say, we don't like where AI is going, but you already have that right. You can always say this isn't what the NBA wanted. You have to reserve a right that you inherently have to say, I don't like where this is going. You always have that right. I'm a former lawyer. I know for legal people put boilerplate, I reserve the right of this, whatever. What is this crap? This is what we want in AI? Every one of those points we already have. We have that without the agreement. You don't even have this clause in there. I have all those 4 things.
So why was it such a point of
because they were bullshitting the members. They were bullshitting these young kids. They're bullshitting these young kids. They needed these kids rallying. We're going to guarantee you work. We're going to prevent you from ever being replaced by a computer. But you can't be replaced by a computer, right? If you're working on such a shitty movie that the producer gives you a shitty script that was written by AI and you can't make it better, and you're threatened by that, you're not a writer. Get out, just go back to Oklahoma. What are you doing? I mean, but they told these kids that who are insecure that this was it. And I say all this, who does have a real AI problem? Romy does. Actors have a real AI thing because they are screwing with you. They will scan Romy's face and use it for characters in the future against her permission. That her face is part of her creativity. It's her body. An actor uses their body. So that is a real legitimate concern. That's a real thing. None of the 4 points that the writers won was ever real. It wasn't real then. It's not real today.
Besides the youngins, would other people in Writers Guild friends of yours disagree with what you just said?
Sure they will, but they disagree in a religious sense. It's like, well, someday in the future, something might happen. It's like arguing with somebody, well, Jesus might return tomorrow, or Moses might be this, or Buddha is this. Well, that's faith. What I do know is that the powers we have been given, these are not the powers that He-Man got from, holding up the sword. I have the power. He's still Adam. There's no change. So what is these powers that writers have been given? Nothing has changed. So even if they think in the future, okay, well, none of the powers you've gotten address any of it, of that imaginary future you're talking about. When that imaginary future shows up, where somehow AI is able to beat you as a writer, okay, well, it never could have, because an AI script, unless you think that a computer will one day be a Writers Guild member, well, why don't you put instead of all this, why don't you just put a rule in the Writers Guild that only a human being can be a member of the Writers Guild? That solves the entire problem, because only a Writers Guild member can have underlying material to sell for the show, for the material. So you don't need anyone's agreement. You just put a rule